are here because the outside world rejects you.
One of the most incredible things we got in the 90s was the live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. Of course, the first one has aged the best throughout the years, but if you were around at the time, you probably remember that all three live-action Turtles movies were a big part of pop culture back then, even though the follow-ups weren't as good as the first movie. But today I want to go ahead and focus on one of those follow-ups, Secret of the Ooze, and discuss 10 facts you might not have known. To me, it may not be as good as the first movie, but some might argue it's the most famous out of the three, and after doing some research for this video, it does have some damn good facts. So let's go ahead, waste no time, grab a slice of pizza, and dive into the sewers because we're going to take a look at 10 facts you might not have known about Secret of the Ooze. Doing backflips in the turtle suits. Apparently at one point, the script called for Leonardo to do a back handspring. Mark Casso, the actor that played Leonardo, who was also a national gymnast competitor, stepped up to the plate and wanted to do the backspring, but it is said that the director of the film, Michael Pressman, didn't want to risk the main Leonardo actor getting an injury, so they looked for someone who could perform the stunt. Eventually, the director gave in, and Casso was able to pull off the stunt himself. Casso reportedly said in a quote, "I was like, well, I want to do my own thing. You are going to go out there and look for someone worse than me. You cannot find somebody to do a better back handspring than I can. I want Leonardo to have the best one." What makes this even more impressive is that back in 1980, so about 10 years before the filming of Secret of the Ooze, Casso had broke his neck during training, and it was reported at the time that it was possible that he would never walk again. Luckily, using a bone from his hip, doctors surgically fused his spine together. To create support for his neck, the doctors drilled 4 holes in his skull and constructed a halo brace. Obviously, he recovered and was able to perform as Leonardo in the 90s. Kind of mind-blowing, but what a legend. Turtle actor cameos.
What the heck was that?
Looked like sort of a big turtle.
In the first movie, the actors playing the turtles inside the suits had cameos throughout the film. Secret of the Ooze continued this tradition. At the beginning of the movie, when April is coming home, she is greeted by a couple. The gentleman right there is Michelin Sisti, the in-suit actor for Michelangelo. If you remember, he was also the pizza delivery guy in the first movie. Also, apparently, the outside of April's apartment right here is the office to the New York location of the Jim Henson Creature Shop, the people that created the turtle suits, for those who don't know. Also, that's the lady from Curb Your Enthusiasm, by the way. The Donatello actor Leif Tilden also has a cameo in the film. He's the foot soldier in the junkyard that's telling the rest of the foot soldiers that the junkyard was the fallback spot.
Well, maybe they didn't find us.
Hey, we all knew the junkyard was our fallback spot.
And lastly, circling back around to the Leonardo in-suit actor Mark Casso, he also makes a cameo in the film. He's the man in the newsroom who tells April that someone named Donatello is calling her.
I mean, I'm the news manager here, April.
April, there's a call for you.
No weapons. The first 1990 Ninja Turtles movie, for being a PG movie, is kinda dark, if you think about it. Splinter gets kidnapped, strung up, and brutally beaten. Raphael almost dies. The Shredder is crushed in a garbage truck. And there's also the fact that the Turtles get to use their weapons throughout the film. Something that was changed in Secret of the Ooze, and that fans may not have noticed. Other than a few scenes at the beginning of the movie, like when Leonardo stabs the ceiling, the Turtles seem to have forgotten to use their weapons. Except for Donatello. They must have been okay with the bow staff. Now, this is not an accident. Apparently, there was backlash from parents about the darker tone and violence of the first movie. Thanks, Karens. To combat this, the filmmakers decided not to let the Turtles wield their iconic weapons throughout the film, although they did have some clever substitutes that probably made the kids at the time think that they did see the Turtles use their weapons throughout the film, like Leonardo using these batons instead of his swords, and Michelangelo wielding sausages instead of his nunchucks. Bebop and Rocksteady knockoffs? Details on this one are kinda fuzzy, but it is said that the studio wanted the Ninja Turtles villains, Bebop and Rocksteady, to appear in Secret of the Ooze. Now this is where it gets a little hazy, but from what I can make of it, there appears to have been some licensing issues with those specific characters. So because of this, the characters of Tokka and Rahzar were created, like from scratch. They had never been introduced before in Ninja Turtles lore, although this turned out to be pretty memorable. Tokka and Rahzar became so popular since that Secret of the Ooze movie that the characters have appeared multiple times in different variations of the Ninja Turtles. Like to this day, they've recently come out in the new IDW comics. But one can't help but imagine what a Jim Henson Creature Shop Bebop and Rocksteady would have looked like. Turtle connections. One thing that fascinates me about this Turtles movie is the involvement the Turtle actors, and this includes voice actors, main in-suit actors, and stunt actors, had in other cool movies and shows that were out around the time. Let's take a look at some of these connections. It's actually pretty interesting. Let's start off with Leonardo. The voice actor for Leonardo in the movie is Brian Toshi. One interesting connection he has is that he actually went on to voice another character in the Ninja Turtles animated show that was out around the time. Although it wasn't Leonardo, it was the character of Yoku Mogo. Yoku Mogo is the grandson of Splinter's mentor in the show. Here, have a listen.
Please forgive me for lying to you, but I couldn't risk the entire mission.
Mission?
I'm a secret government agent.
Now, moving on to the in-suit Leonardo actor, who we talked about earlier, Mark Casso. One interesting connection that I always think is fun pointing out is that he went on to be the stunt double for Sub-Zero in the 1995 film Mortal Kombat. Now, when it comes to Raphael, the stunt actor for Raphael in Secret of the Ooze was Ho Sun Pak. Ho Sun Pak also has a Mortal Kombat connection, although his is a little different. Ho Sun Pak was the original actor to play Liu Kang in the very first Mortal Kombat video game. As you can see there, kind of wild. I never realized that such a huge character from our childhood was also the stunt actor for Raphael. Next up is Donatello, and he has some pretty cool pop culture connections as well. The in-suit actor for Donatello, Leif Tilden, also played another character in a big rubber suit around the same time. He played the character of Robbie Sinclair in the 1991 television show Dinosaurs. Yep, that's Donatello right there. Staying on Donatello, Donatello had a stunt actor named Stephen Ho. And yet again, we have another Mortal Kombat connection here. Stephen plays the character of Liu Kang's brother in the 1995 film Mortal Kombat, the one at the beginning of the movie that gets killed by Shang Tsung. Apparently Stephen was also a part of the Conan O'Brien show for a number of years. And lastly, we have Michelangelo. The in-suit actor for Michelangelo, Michelin Sisti, went on to do the dinosaur show as well. He ended up playing the character of Charlene Sinclair, and apparently he's also done a number of Muppets projects throughout the years. Now, the voice actor for Michelangelo in Secret of the Ooze, Robbie Rist, stuck around with the Turtles, but it wouldn't happen until 20 years later. In the 2012 Ninja Turtle show, he came back to voice a different character in the Ninja Turtles universe. This time, it was the character of Mondo Gecko. What's funny about this is that he's good friends with Michelangelo in the show. Super Shredder was a WWE superstar? It's true, professional wrestler Kevin Nash was the actor that played Super Shredder. It's actually his first IMDb credit. Anyways, I feel like this one's pretty common knowledge amongst Turtle fans, but the story of how he got the role is a little less known. Kevin Nash has talked about it on his podcast, Click This. He mentions that one night, after one of his wrestling matches, which was in North Carolina, where the movie was being filmed, he heard his name being called. He mentions that this was before the internet or anything, so that it caught his attention because they knew his real name. He said it was two guys calling his name, and that they showed him their business card. They were from the movie studio, and apparently they asked him right then and there if he would be interested in playing Super Shredder in the next Ninja Turtles movie. Nash looked at their card again and thought it looked legit, so he said yeah. Then again, right then and there, the studio guys asked him if they would be able to get a head mold of him that night for the Super Shredder helmet. Nash says he went to a Holiday Inn later that night, and that they stuck two straws up his nose and did a cast of his head. The following is a little unclear, but it all appears to have been a last-minute scramble, as the original Super Shredder actor had passed away, and they needed someone with a similar stature, which was around 7 feet. Nash fit this description, and so the WWE superstar Kevin Nash became Super Shredder. The story behind Kino. It's kind of wild to look back because now the character of Kino is kind of iconic, but back when the movie came out, the character kind of came out of nowhere. There's actually an interesting story behind this. For those who may not know, the actor that plays Kino in Secret of the Ooze, Ernie Reyes Jr., was also in the first Ninja Turtles movie. He was the stuntman for Donatello. Now apparently the producers loved this performance so much that they came up with the idea to create the character of Kino just for him. What's also interesting about this is that it's really the only time we see the character of Kino. He's never really mentioned again in any other version of the Ninja Turtles, other than some small comic cameos, which is kind of interesting. I wonder if there's like a rights issue with the character. If not, I would love to see the character again in future projects, especially interacting with characters like Casey Jones, as we were kind of robbed from that in the past.
I think you'd better sit down.
Leonardo Cameo? Being a fan of these live-action rubber suit Ninja Turtles, I'm always excited to learn of other pieces of media that they were in. Commercials, music videos, things like that. So when I found out Secret of the Ooze Leonardo had made a cameo in another movie back in the 90s, I thought it was pretty cool. The film he comes out in is the 1991 film Bernard and the Genie. And if you've studied the differences between the first movie suits and the Secret of the Ooze suits as much as I have, you notice very quickly that this is a Secret of the Ooze Leonardo suit. And yeah, that's him appearing in another movie. This would have blown my mind as a kid. Kinda like when I was a young adult and Iron Man walked in at the end of the Hulk movie. Obviously this didn't have as big of ramifications as that Iron Man cameo did, but still, seeing these rubber suit turtles in another movie would have blown me away. One interesting thing about this cameo is that it's clearly a Secret of the Ooze suit, but it's credited as being the in-suit Leonardo actor from the first movie, David Foreman, and not the Secret of the Ooze actor, Mark Casso. So yeah, I think we're seeing the only time that the movie 1 Leonardo actor wore the movie 2 suit. This must have been filmed in between the 2 turtle movies. But yeah, a cool fact that nobody really talks about. Baxter Stockman in Secret of the Ooze. It is said that TMNT co-creators Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird had pitched an approach when Secret of the Ooze was still in development that would have included a lot of elements from issue 2 of the original Ninja Turtles comics from the 80s. For those who don't know, issue 2 revolves a lot around Baxter Stockman and the Mousers. Honestly, I love Secret of the Ooze, but I think this would have been a great approach to follow up the first movie. I always thought if they were ever to do a legacy sequel to that first movie, for those who don't know, a legacy sequel is a term for like sequels that come out nowadays that are follow-ups to old movies from back in the day, but they take place in the same universe. Anyways, I always thought if they ever did make a legacy sequel to the 1990 Ninja Turtles movie, that 1, it should take place in that same time frame as that first movie, so the 90s, 2, use the rubber suits again, and 3, adapt the events of issue 2 of the original Mirage comics, with the Mousers and Baxter Stockman coming after the Turtles. But yeah, it would have been cool if Eastman and Laird would have been able to do this. Secret of the Ooze is cool, but a follow-up to that 1990 movie that would have followed the Baxter Stockman Mouser stories would have been legendary. What was the Secret of the Ooze? Well, I've done a whole video on this last one breaking it all down in detail. I'll have it here as a card at the end of the video. But basically, the Secret of the Ooze, which is never actually answered in the film, was that the Ootroms were the ones that created the Ooze. For those who don't know, the Ootroms are those little aliens that look like Krang. Now, we all know that Krang is evil, but for the most part, the rest of the Ootroms are usually good guys, at least in the comics. Anyways, Professor Perry, the scientist in the movie, was supposed to reveal at the end of the film that he was indeed an Ootrom, and the movie was supposed to end on a cliffhanger. But yeah, as we all know, that doesn't end up happening, but at least in our headcanon, we can still imagine that that is the case, that the secret of the Ooze was that the Ooze was created by Ootroms, and that at the end, Professor Perry slipped away and flew back to his home planet.
Well, you're the last one, aren't you?
Well, there you go, folks. Those are 10 facts that now you do know about Ninja Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze. Be sure to leave your comments down below. Make sure to follow on all the socials. Links are down below in the description. And I will see you all in a little bit with another video. Take care.